Yo, what's going on, guys? We are here with the next round. Yep, next round of my latest tournament. So we couldn't stream it today, and it's been over a week since we've been back. I think 2 weeks now, actually. But so I know you guys wanted to see the games, and of course, usually we'll stream it and stuff like that, so you guys can be able to see it while we stream and see the analysis, and we'll be streaming and doing all of that. But it's tougher to stream every day like I used to, of course, with family and just more work chess wise, you know, and just being better, and also changing up the streaming schedule. So we're still going to get these videos out anyway. So this is a recorded video rather than being on stream with it. So some we'll do on stream if we have the time, and some, the rest we'll do on recordings like this. So thanks for watching. Make sure you guys subscribe if you haven't already, guys. We have crossed 50,000 subscribers. I'm so happy. I'm elated, guys. I feel great, and we're close. Well, you know, we still a ways away, but we are on the way, basically, to 100,000 subscribers, which is going to be next level. We get that play button with all that other stuff. So, shout out to you guys. Thanks for being a part of it. Before we get started, we always like to do some housework here to show you guys the stuff that we have. So before we get started, let's take a look at these two things right here. So first thing is, you can comment attack under the video, and if you do that, I'll send you a free aggressive chess starter kit. So this is like a starter kit for aggressive chess. It comes with 5 trainings in here that's included, and very strong stuff. So you can comment attack right under the video, and I'll send it right to you for free. The second thing is, we do have the aggressive chess improvement system at the 50K subs discount. So we hit 50,000 subscribers, so now we have it at a discount here. Of course, it's a huge discount because it's normally a lot more than $49, especially with everything that comes inside of this aggressive chess improvement system built just for you and aggressive chess. One of my most aggressive chess courses I've ever put out. So now I'm giving it to you guys for a very low price here. And this is the 50K subs special here. In it, you'll get the KYLO strike course that we use for all of our speed runs. The E4 Jedi Way, C3 Sicilian, aggressive chess starter kit, 7-day activation challenge, attacking tactical trigger deck, bonus attacking chess videos as well, and of course some other stuff too. So we also have a money back guarantee. Of course, you guys don't need to use that ever, but we always put it in there just in case for whatever reason. Now, with that being said, guys, let's get back to, or let's start our analysis today and get to work. Here we go. So this is round 2 of the National Open, aka the Las Vegas Open. So we will be interactive here, and I will be asking questions. And you know, what would you play here? You can pause the video if you like. I'll tell you to do that because I want you to try to get into the mind of how I was thinking and things like this. I had an incredible tournament here, and this is one of the games that actually helped contribute to that incredible tournament too as well. Every round was very important. So my player that I'm playing here is International Master Joseph Levine. I remember when I lost to him before with the black pieces in the Najdorf Sicilian, so I kind of wanted a little revenge here. Of course, as you're not technically looking for that. You want to focus on the game in front of you. But I know that he's a very strong player. So he plays 1 e4. He goes e4. So here, I actually thought for a while. And, you know, when you have preparation for an opponent, you like to prep to see all the things they play. I've actually played him more than one time on, I think I played him online too, but over the board at a norm tournament. I actually was winning. I think I was up a piece. He like sacrificed it. In a crazy Najdorf Sicilian, and I actually ended up losing that game because I blundered somewhere. It got too sharp, and my tactics weren't there. But, you know, fast forward, my tactics are there now. They there now. So let's go. So here, I was actually thinking about what I wanted to play. E5, E6, C5, and for me, guys, I mean, I've tried everything. I've played everything. And I just know what kind of player I am. I am a Sicilian player, 100%. Now, I do like D6 a lot, too. I think that's my second, you know, OTB, or like in blitz games, all blitz games. And some maybe later on, you know, because I know people will be prepping for my Sicilians, plural. I'll be playing some D6, a.k.a. KYLO strike stuff, you know, Black Lions, aggressive Philidor, stuff like that. That we have in the courses, by the way. So I play C5, and then he goes, you know, regular knight F3. And then I go D6. Regular stuff. In fact, the first game that we played, I went the same way, D6, right? So as you see the timestamp here too as well, right here after E4, C5, it took me like a minute, you know, so I'm already, you know, not down a minute, but, you know, I used some time because I really was thinking like C5, okay, we'll play it. He goes knight f3, and I sat here for a second, and you see after my next move, I spent like a minute. Because I was like, which Sicilian do I really want to play? And I was like, you know what? I've played this Sicilian 3 times over the board. I have 1 win, I have 1 draw, and I have this game too as well, which I won't show you the result until the end. But yeah, I have actually played very good with this Sicilian. This is the classical Sicilian, I should say. And I went d6 instead of going Najdorf, which of course the Najdorf starts the same way with 2 d6 here. After the d6 move, he goes d4. Right, this is the regular stuff, regular theory. I take, he takes back. I go knight f6, all theory, knight c3, and here this is the differentiation or the difference between, you know, you have a6, which is the Najdorf, or you can play what I play here, which is knight c6, which is the classical Sicilian that I've scored very well with this opening, even online too as well. I've definitely gotten cooked before, but I also have studied this stuff now. And I spent a lot of time playing this before, especially online and stuff like that. And I didn't want a Najdorf here because, again, the Najdorf, I remember even Magnus recently was talking about how many moves you have against the Najdorf. Let's just count it out, right? So if you play a6 here, the Najdorf, I actually put it on the board. If you play the Najdorf Sicilian, here's all the moves that you have in this Najdorf Sicilian here. So you have a4, sorry, a3 actually too. So I'm actually going to back it up. But a3, you have a4. You have bishop e2, bishop d3, which is what was played against me by Joseph Levine. I used to be a huge Najdorf player, and Joseph Levine actually played this in our first encounter. Was bishop d3, bishop c4, bishop e3. I think bishop d2 actually was a weird one that Magnus mentioned. What's another one? f4, g3, h3, rook g1. These are all moves that you can play against the Najdorf Sicilian, and even in h4. Actually, I think remember Magnus mentioning that too. These are almost, oh, not to mention bishop g5. What am I doing? You know, bishop g5. So like, there's so many moves to play against the Najdorf Sicilian, right? It's like incredible. You have to know all of these and in depth. Now, I did, you know, a lot of them a6 play Najdorf. So, yeah, I didn't go this route. After knight c3, I go knight c6. This is the classical Sicilian, which now I have to cut down drastically of all the moves. Now, of course, there's still a lot of moves you can play. Knight c6, knight b5, sort of Sveshnikov-ish. a3 and a4 I've never seen in the classical, but maybe it is a move, maybe it's not. I've never seen it. You do have bishop e2, bishop d3 doesn't work anymore. Bishop b5 is usually a strange move. f4, bishop e3. I guess you still could go rook g1 and h3 in these moves, but this is different. This is different. It's also a reason why I do like the classical Sicilian. I remember when I was studying it, and one thing I learned and one thing that was said in the classical Sicilian is that it's just normal with development. So you get your pieces out faster in a classical Sicilian than you would in like a Najdorf Sicilian, because you're following basic principles of developing your pieces. So after knight c6, he goes bishop c4, which is a Sozin, actually. I actually lost a Sozin OTB before with Najdorf. Again, Najdorf is like, I got some wins, I got losses, I got everything. But yeah, Sozin here is kind of annoying. And when you face this Sozin attack here, you got to be careful, because this is what Bobby Fischer likes to play. Bishop c4, he used to play this a lot. And basically, white gets developed very quickly. So remember, in these variations, okay, you still can go e6, bishop e7, bishop d7, a6, b5. Very easy way to play. I remember from a classical Sicilian book from, what's my guy? Sam Shanklin, shout out to Big Sam, that he played this move in his course. And I haven't studied it in a long time, but I do remember against bishop c4, he liked this move, queen b6. It's different. It's just different. It's a disruptive move. And I actually spent some time here. No, not here, but after the next move. So after queen b6, which is a annoying move, it hits the knight. I'm threatening queen takes knight. You know, so he goes knight d to b5. And rather quickly, I mean, you see, he's up time. He's at 1 hour and 33 minutes. We have increment on every move, like 30 seconds. So he goes knight d b5, and he's like, you know, 1 hour and 33. You know, he's played this position a bunch of times, obviously. So here I thought for a minute, because I was thinking to myself, am I blundering? Like, why did he make this move so fast, knowing that I could just kick him away? He's a strong player, international master, so don't get it twisted. You know, he's not about to just blunder like that. So do we play a6 or do we not? You can pause the video if you need to. You can put comments in the video too as well, while you're watching, if you think. Do you play a6 here or do you not? I'll give you a chance. A6 or not? Okay, so we do go for the A6 move. Great job. Why? And the reason why are we considering what's wrong with A6? Well, he's allowed, bishop E3. So we have to calculate this move. Bishop E3, which he plays in the game. He attacks my queen. I have to move it. I could go back to D8 or I could go to A5. I like to go for the active option always. So I go queen to A5. After queen A5, he just goes back to D4. And I was like, what? Like, what? I'm like, am I doing something wrong? But he did still develop, but I was able to get A6 in kind of for free, which I guess this is a variation, and I'm just like, fine. Okay, cool. A6. I get my queen out a little bit. So now I take the chance to go E6 now, because this bishop is very annoying and so is in lines. I also need to develop my bishop. He goes knight takes, B takes, and then he goes queen F3, which is a really nice move, I believe. And the reason why queen F3 is nice is because he's hitting like the E5 type ideas with queen takes C6 being check and all this other stuff. So here, when you have this pawn flanks like this, it's usually a time to push D5 at the right moment. Bishop E7 is going to be annoying again because E5 is going to hit queen takes F3. So my move here is basically forced. I go D5. After D5, he takes with the E pawn, and now it's on you guys. How do you capture back? Do you capture with the E pawn? Or do you capture with the C pawn? Which pawn do you want to capture back with? Very important. So both moves are playable. If I could go back, I probably would have taken with the E pawn. But I did take with the C pawn and opened up the C file type of thing. A very natural way of developing. But if I take with the E pawn, it doesn't allow his next move. In fact, right now he has to move the bishop. Maybe actually he doesn't. He actually still doesn't have to move the bishop, which is kind of crazy. But the reason why I say that is after E takes D5, so maybe C takes was great from a practical standpoint, is he has this move, castle queenside, and he about to cook you if you are not paying attention. The reason why castle queenside is the move is obviously, look at this. Loose pieces, lose games. Loose means undefended. And someone tells me what happens on rook to B8. Rook B8 is a scary looking move. The reason why I say this is because I actually thought he could sacrifice in some cases. I think I'm okay. Knight takes, pawn takes, right? I'm actually okay here. Because he can like move the bishop and do all this other stuff, like even bishop takes. Luckily, I'm able to get out of this. You got to be careful. Because there's like rook E1 at some point. Bishop D2 or rook E1. So I had to be careful. I was like looking at this and I was like, oh, am I in trouble? Am I in trouble type thing. So you want to develop pieces, guys. You want to get your pieces out. So I go bishop to B7. I put the bishop here. I still technically can't take because this is, not defended yet. But I put my bishop on B7 in hopes that I'm stopping a lot of the sacrifices here. He goes bishop to B3 now. I actually was curious to see what happens on rook A to E1. Engine says, oh, wow, that's crazy. Wow. Rook A to E1 is wrong. I thought this was the move. But I was able to get away. So what do you think the best move is, engine-wise? That's such a good move. Oh, my goodness. That's crazy. I was not considering this. Yeah, that's crazy. But black to move, guys. What do you think you would play here? In the game, I was going to play bishop e7. This didn't happen because, it's a natural move. Everything's developed. I was going to go bishop e7, and then I was calculating this to see if he can end up sacking or something. And sacking just doesn't work because I end up taking like this. Take, right? So I end up taking. I'm good. It doesn't work for him. I was going to play bishop e7, but the better move, believe it or not, is castle queenside. I was not expecting this. Castle queenside. Because the bishop's now defended. And then if he moves back or away, I go d4. And I win some material right here. That is a crazy line. But if you thought that was crazy, you ain't seen nothing yet. Watch this. So in the game, after takes, he castles. I go bishop b7. He goes bishop back to b3. So now I take this time to develop because I have to. Guys, even if it doesn't look good, you still need to develop. Now, looking back, I'm wondering if this is a move. And it is. Okay, bishop c6 is a move. The reason why I'm saying that is because, well, I need to develop and get castled. So when I go bishop e7, well, why would I even consider bishop c6? Because of his move now, which is bishop a4 check. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. You know, remember, I didn't play this a lot. This classical Sicilian over the board. This is my 3rd game playing the classical Sicilian in my chess career, and scoring very well with it. In fact, very impressive score that I have with this opening. And I had never reached this position before. Now, you know, you can put in comments here. You can comment, timestamp. What do you think the evaluation says right now? I always have 2 evaluations. When I'm teaching students, I always say have a human evaluation, have an engine evaluation. So from an engine evaluation, I'll tell you what that is in a minute, you know. But there's an engine and a human. From the human evaluation, I thought I was getting cooked. I was like, or not cooked, but I'm like, oh, this is not fun. This is not fun at all. This is not fun. Because, I mean, okay, after bishop a4 check, I have to go king f8. After king f8, I mean, this doesn't feel good. My rooks are disconnected. I have disconnected rooks. It's not the greatest to be sitting there with disconnected rooks, right? Because you need to connect them to finish the game. But I do have a rock solid center, and it's hard for him to get to me right now. Right now, engine evaluation, believe it or not, is equal. Everything is equal, no problems here. But I was like, yeah, this don't look very fun. I was not happy. I was like, I don't really like this. But the only thing that I'm really not developed with is this rook over here on h8. Right? So now, after king f8, he goes bishop to d4. With ideas of like maybe rook here and stuff like that, you know. Eventually, I do want to get this king somewhere, and especially if I was threatening or wanted to go g6 or h6 and put the king up, you know, I'm going to have to deal with that. So, okay, guys, it's black to move. What do you play in this position? You got to kind of untangle. White's pieces are pretty good. In fact, it's basically like zeros here in this position, super equal, but you have to make moves and you want to still be active in a way. After king f8, he goes bishop d4. I make this move h5. What is this move about? You can put in the comments, timestamp it. Think about it. Why would I play a move like h5? What is this about? What h5 is about is activating my rook. Remember, we talked about I need to get this rook out. If I don't, then I'm in trouble with, you know, the disconnected rooks. So my goal is to develop my rook as somehow, some way, somewhere, somehow, right? Get the rook out. I go h5. He goes h3 because in some cases he's gonna go g4 himself, which later on he did actually. But g4, he wants to play g4. So here I spent a little bit of time, and I tried to figure out what I wanted to do. And instead of sitting around waiting, you know, we don't wait around. We're aggressive players over here. We play very aggressive chess, and we don't sit around and wait for anyone at any time. So I'm not going to sit around and wait for him to come to me. We're going to come to him. So I wanted to create some problems, or at least, you know, play around with his pieces or make him think. That's one thing you want to be doing. So black to move, what would you play in this position? Pause the video if you need to. What would you play? I recommend pausing because I'm not going to give you much time here. But yeah, what do you think is playable? Engine says few moves. h4, gaining more space, makes sense. Rook c8, which is a very logical move. And queen c7. I didn't play any of these. In fact, I go knight e4, which is still fine. Inaccurate is an engine standpoint, but remember, have 2 evaluations, human and engine. So after knight e4, why am I going knight e4? My immediate threat already is queen takes a4 after knight takes c3. I actually calculated some crazy lines here too. Like, I'll actually show you what I was calculating, but knight e4 is, you know, the move here. So I'm threatening to get rid of this and then take here. And then what did I calculate? So I'm trying to remember, takes, oh yeah. So here's what happens. So I go knight e4. He goes knight takes e4. Right. He also had like a bishop b3 too as well, but I think I was just going to go rook c8. And like, you know, I have some activity, but he takes. So I was actually calculating d takes e4, which the engine gives. But after d takes e4, queen c3, I thought was a move, right? Or I thought he could play queen c3, which is a crazy move. I was actually considering this. Look how crazy this line was. I was going to go for this. Queen takes bishop. Bishop takes here. You have to go king e8. If you go king g8, when he takes the rook, there's mate in 1. Look at this, right? You're immediately losing because now there's mate in 1. Why is this relevant? Because if I go king e8 after bishop takes, well, now I have a rook to c8, which is what I was considering. Rook c8, which is really strong in a lot of cases, threatening mate here on c2 because he doesn't have a lot of squares to go to. That's why I wanted to go king g8 to play for this line. And then when he moves his queen, because he has to stay around this because that's mate, well, then I would win his bishop too in a lot of cases, but then I would have problems with the 2 bishops here. It was a lot I was calculating. Here, but he just has queen b3. And like, it doesn't work for me. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So instead, after takes, sorry, king e8 takes, I was actually going to start here. Queen takes a2. This is the move I was going to choose. And after queen takes a2, there's stuff like this check. There's rook c8. I mean, there's just a lot of pressure on his king now. But he didn't go for this. He didn't go for this at all. So instead, after 94, knight takes. I didn't take, I calculated this. I thought there was a lot going on. I was like, you know what, bro, let's just go for the simpler route. I like having bishops too as well. So I take on a4. So now I have the bishop pair. And this knight has to move. There's no good squares. He can't go here because obviously I take. So he goes back to c3. And here I thought a little bit because I was like, where's my queen going to go? Like, where do I want to put it? a5, c6, d7, c4. So after some thought, I was like, just put it on a simple square. Queen c6. Simple. Holding this down, helping a5, a4 at some point. Still being on the c file is simple, right? Simple chess. He goes queen e3. I take this time to go h4. So I can now rook lift. Put the rook on h5. He go, oh, also, this was a very multi-purpose move. After h4, the reason why I go h4 is because his next plan could be like, he wants to break this up. So how would he do that? Moves like f4, f5, g4. So if he plays g4 and f4 and f5, I could be under some trouble because my king's right here. So what I did is I go h4. So now if he goes f4, he can't go g4 too. Like, look at this. f4. Now g4 will always be en passant, and this pawn thing is not as strong anymore. By far. I also could go rook h5 and really bully the square, and g4 is not really being played. Right? So very advanced idea. I go h4. Sorry about that. Okay, let's go here. 94, take. Queen back, queen here, h4. After h4, he goes rook h to e1 with an inaccuracy by the engine standpoint. And now I just follow up with the plan. Rook h5. Right? And now my rook is active. Weird, but it's active. And if king g8, looks like I castle. And somehow this, that's just incredible. Like, how would you castle and then get your rook on h5? If your king gets here, it'd be like rook here, then rook here, and somehow your rook got to h5, right? But yeah, okay, I finally go rook h5. I get my rook out. He finally goes f4, but now look at this. A different move order of getting to the position we talked about with the rook controlling the square. So I realized here, I'm fine, actually. I have worked and navigated myself out of a position that felt very bad, but in fact, it was very equal the entire time, where I felt really good about this. Because after f4, now I go rook c8. Feeling amazing. Like, I got the pressure. I got 2 bishops. You can't play f5. I thought this was good. He goes rook d2, which is extra protection on this. So one thing you want to be asking is, what is my worst place piece? And lots of times you can find moves like this when you ask yourself, what is the worst place piece? So ask yourself here, what is your worst place piece? What is my worst place piece? And I want you to figure out, what do you do? Or what is the move to activate the worst place piece here? What do you think the move is? Engine has some moves too, obviously, because engine always has moves. So engine moves are bishop d6, queen c7, and a5. Now remember, the worst place piece will probably be the bishop because it just has no good squares right now. Ugly, right? So we play a5. This is what I've chosen the game. I want to go bishop h6 next, and I actually want to chop off this knight because this knight is going to be able to do some stuff later. Hold that thought. because this knight can become a problem, actually. But I want to go bishop a6 and chop this off. So he goes knight e2. And then here, I went bishop d6 instead of bishop a6. The reason why is I realized after knight e2, I was like, oh, he could play g4 now. And then after en passant, he'll take with the knight. And this is crazy. Like, if I go bishop a6, watch this whole thing. Apparently, it's still equal to, but I thought this was bad. So the g4, en passant, knight takes. He could do rook. Rook takes h3, and this is still equal. Oh my goodness, this is crazy. What a game. The reason why I say this is he has this. Oops, sorry, that is not a move. He has bishop takes g7 with the idea of if king takes, he'll go knight f5 and take the rook. I go king e8, and then I thought he would go like f5. F5, and this is apparently equal. This is ridiculous. Equal what, bro? What do you mean? Like, black is better by points. Sorry, white is better by 0.16. Like, very equal, apparently. This is insane that this is even equal. Don't believe it by one bit at all. But I was like, I don't really like this. And if remember, you have to have two evaluations, human and engine. Human standpoint, you like, this don't feel good. From an engine standpoint, they're like, it's nothing. It's nothing, right? Crazy. I wasn't trying to go for this line. So that's why I didn't go bishop a6. In fact, I went bishop d6, which they consider a slight inaccuracy here. And the reason for this is I was playing against the g4 move. Because after g4, now if they're en passant, knight takes, I could actually go rook h4. And in some cases, I actually wanted to play rook h4 here. Wow. Engine has a move that is completely out of this world. Oh my goodness. That's crazy. Wow. So this would have been a blunder. In fact, I'll have to go like rook h7. Maybe I would have saw this in calculation anyway, but I wanted to be aiming at this pawn. But rook h4, the move here, there's two of them. First is knight f5. Bro, what? Look at the double exclamation on this boy. Sheesh. Well, okay, takes. Then he hits me here. And then double brilliance. Because if takes, just queen g3. So I have to go king g8, and then apparently bishop c3 is winning, or rook g1. Like, insane. Because I was just playing on this. Because, right, if I can pin this rook, then he's getting mated. Like, ooh-wee, sheesh. And then the other move is bishop takes g7 instead of knight f5. Another brilliant move there. And I would have to go king e8. Again, because the same idea. If king takes, knight f5 check. That's a two-piece sack, by the way. Takes, queen g3. And then rook g4 is best. If king f8, then queen takes. And, like, the dark squares are so nasty. This was an incredible game. This didn't happen. I'm glad it didn't happen. After bishop d6, though, he went bishop c3. He actually backed up and went to c3. So I went queen back to c7, aiming at this pawn. He goes queen d4, obvious threat, hitting g7. I go rook h7, because I just go back. Because it's like, you know, f6 was really hard to play here. Believe it or not, the engine says it's the best. It's really hard to play f6, especially with the rook bearing down on the file like this. How to defend it is king e8 and queen here, and rook e8. I have to be careful. f6 is something you play when the timing's right. So I go rook h7. He goes back. Cool. I offer a draw. Rook h5. I'm like, okay, cool. You know, I'm not about to mess this position up. You know, I'm not moving anything really. You know, because if you move the knight, then this hangs. G4 idea doesn't really work anymore due to this. I'm just back and forth. Rook h7, rook h5. I drew a GM first round playing IM. This is a respectable draw. I also didn't like my position as much. Didn't know I was equal, of course, you know, because the king's on f8 early in the game, but it was equal. Just playing great chess, you know, from your boy, right? But rook h5. He goes back. I go rook h7. He goes back. I'm like, cool. He do it one more time. I'm claiming a draw. And he says, and actually, by the way, check this out. Right around here. So right here, after queen here, he spent 10 minutes to play queen d4. 10 minutes. Queen d4. 10 minutes. I play rook h7. Look at this. He spends 7 minutes and plays queen e3. He goes back. So I'm like, cool. He probably going to take a draw because he gets 3.5 minutes left. Rook h5. He spent 3 minutes to go back queen d4. He has less than a minute left on the clock. I'm for sure. I'm like, okay, he's going to take a draw here. You know, it's the right move. All right, so I offer the draw, you know, rook h7. He plays on and plays queen e3. And I was like, okay. I go rook h5, and then he plays on. And I say to myself, this is where I start to lock in. Okay, I'm like, okay, cool. I got 28 minutes. He has 40 seconds. There's got to be something here to play on his time, but also play on the position because he wants to play on. Now, right now, they think black is better by almost a pawn, like minus 0.8 here. If I find the move rook h6, which is cool, but I didn't like this. I wanted to keep the rook here because it's active, so I go g6, which is the move, or the second move. Then he goes back queen e3 with the idea, actually, you see how much time I spent there, right? 11 minutes. So after g6, he goes queen e3 with the queen d4 type idea once again. I go rook f5 because I'm sitting here with this. They didn't like that. They wanted bishop a6, which is a crazy move, I guess. But then he goes queen d4. So now he's hitting all the dark squares. All right, hitting all the dark squares. Look, he still has 49 seconds left. And here we go, guys. Woo-wee, here we go. I play f6. Here it is. Buckle up. Buckle up. Because these pawns have all been pushed. e5 is coming, which means d4 is coming. Everything is about to go haywire here. So he goes queen e3. I go e5 because the knight is coming next and I am cooked. So my move is basically forced. And just say go rook e8. Oh, wow. Because he can't move the knight because bishop takes. Oh, wow. I didn't even see that. But he got 40 seconds here. So I play e5. It's still equalist, even though that's question mark. They say it's 0.37 for white now. After pawn takes, I take back with the pawn. And believe it or not, I am still fine here. It's actually 0.45. Now it goes down. It says 0.35 for white. Plus 0.35 for white. G4. I'll actually show you in real time how it's. You see 0.35. Like, look at this position, guys. So I take. This is chaos. Rook here, pawns here, king weak. This is crazy. I didn't care about this check, by the way, because I have queen g7, and I'm probably winning at that point because I would love to trade queens. Wait, maybe not. Hold on, check. Oh, it is. It's winning. It's just completely winning. And then I have to find bishop e7 first, and then bishop g5. Oh, yeah. That's easy to find. So, but he doesn't. He goes with, now he plays g4. And I was like, ooh, that was nice timing because he waited forever to play g4. So now after the g4 move, which he waited forever to play g4. So now I have to be careful. If I en passant, his knight gets extra active. Apparently I could take it, but I was like, I don't want him to be extra active like that, and this pawn falls because then the rook and the bishop and everything's on this pawn. And where do I move the rook even? So I thought, how much time did I spend here? Yeah, I spent 6 minutes and played rook f6. I found this move, rook f6, because again, if he goes queen h6 check, okay, I have queen g7 once again. This is a little bit different though. Queen here, and then what happens on queen takes? I probably have d4 or something. g5 first, and then d4. Bishop takes a5, rook a8. Wow, I'm just cooking here. It's just like minus 3 almost. This game was incredible. So after g4, I go rook f6. He goes queen g5. And now, here we go, guys. Black to move. What do you play in this position? I highly recommend you pause the video. Highly recommend you pause the video. Take 2 minutes and think about this. Maybe 3. Take as much time as you want, really. But then replay the video so you can see what happened. Now, in this game, right, the moves are, here are the moves that, you know, I'm considering, right? So, queen f7, queen e7, queen g7, right? These are all moves. Now, the reason why I didn't like these is because, okay, if queen f7, which defends, or queen e7 was another move, but queen f7, bishop takes. And then after takes, like I give up this strong pawn, and apparently I go rook e8. And like he moved a queen somewhere. And everything's equal still, by the way. Equal still. And I guess because there's pressure here and like some weird stuff going on. But I'm also down a pawn. Like this is just, from playing it, this position as a human playing down a pawn is horrendous. It's so hard to play this. You're down a pawn and the position is wild. Down a pawn position is wild. I didn't want to do that. Queen e7. Apparently he could play this move knight d4, which is still equal, by the way. And I'm supposed to find bishop a6. And then after queen takes h4, king g8. Like there's no way you're finding all of this, right? So he goes queen g5. And here's what I do, guys. Here is what I do. So I play a psychological move. I play a psychological move here, guys. I know his time is low. And I know that if I play this move, he is very likely, the odds here is very high that he will play this one move. Here's the move I play. I go King G7. Now, I know it's wrong. I know it's wrong because I don't know what the real move is. I don't know what the right move is. Now, I will tell you what the right move is for him, but this is just so counterintuitive to play if you're playing white here. So it's white to move. White actually has a winning move here, but it's very hard to play. I played the psychological move because the first move you think of with white, especially if you're an aggressive player and attacking, is the move he plays, and immediately your boy start cooking. But here it is, right? King G7. What the winning move is, guys, is knight to D4. Brilliant move, by the way, right? Knight to D4. Knight to D4. I mean, I don't know how many brilliant moves is in this game, but, just possibilities of brilliant moves in this game. So knight to D4. This actually wins. His threat is knight F5, which is really strong. And taking will allow bishop takes E5, where this is a nasty pin. I can't take this. I might have to try something like King F7. All right, I'm trying it. After King F7, he has knight B5, which is really strong. So I'm getting cooked there, and then knight takes D6. I'm in trouble. All right, so taking I can't do. In fact, best moves from engine. The best is Queen E7, and then just go down and exchange like this. Takes, 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 takes. And somehow try to fight out of here, but, bishop G5. I say rook takes is better. And this is apparently winning. It's going to take a long time, but it's still winning. Right. So he doesn't go knight D4 because that's not the move that looks the greatest. In fact, the move that looks the greatest is knight F4, but it's losing. It loses. It loses. Why does this look great? Well, guys, watch this. If you don't find the only move for black here, white is winning everywhere. The first threat is knight H5 check, which a lot of you don't even, when I show people this game, a lot of people don't even see this threat. They don't even see that this is a threat. This is a nasty check because you're hitting this next. Number one. Number two is the bishop's not blocked. So if you ever tried to take this, you're done. Queen takes F6, right? Number three is rook takes E5. Something can take E5 at any moment. So this is the logical move because I played a psychological move because I knew he would play knight F4. Look at his time too as well. Based off his time after King G7, he had a minute and 12 seconds here. In 30 seconds or so, he makes a move and now he has 32 seconds here. And it's understandable because knight F4 is like such a appealing move. Like this is a beautiful looking move. Knight H5 check. Rook takes E5. Bishop takes E5. All this stuff is going on. But it's losing. Why is it losing? This is one of my favorite combinations I've ever played in a game. Here we go. Black to move, guys. What do you play in this position? Pause the video because we're not going to sit here for 2-3 minutes. I want you to sit here for 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 minutes and figure out what is, you need to find all the moves here. And I was able to calculate and find everything. And here it is. The move is rook takes F4. Let's go. Let's go. Rook takes F4. Another brilliant move. So rook takes F4. Now let's go through all the lines. If queen takes F4, I have another brilliant move here of queen takes C3. Absolutely beautiful move. I mean, this is like the most brilliant moves ever in a game. Like, there's just so many brilliant possibilities. The idea here is, okay, if he takes my queen, well, then I'll take here. And these two bishops will be monstrous. I'm completely winning. Two bishops, no checks, right? You could try maybe rook E6. But I had bishop C5 coming into here. I'm pushing these pawns. This is a great position. Absolutely great. So he can't take. The reason for that is obviously, that would be, why would he want to take anyway, is because of this. Queen takes C3. So, okay, cool. Well, if he sack a piece, I take. How about bishop takes E5? That doesn't make a lot of sense. I'll just take back. I'll just take back. If he takes with the rook, then there's rook F1 check, and he ends up getting mated due to queen takes C2 because he has to block with this rook. It doesn't make sense to block with that one. So that doesn't work either. If bishop takes E5, okay, cool. Queen takes, I mean, you're down a piece. So I have an extra bishop, right? Winning this one too. So rook takes f4. He's running out of options. This is the move I calculated here because he's running out of options. He has to try the harder move, which is rook takes e5. Nasty move. Very strong player. Because if you don't get this right, you about to get cooked on this diagonal. Bishop takes doesn't make any sense at all, right? So what do you play in this position? Black to move. What do we play now? Take your time. Figure it out. Pause video. The move is, in fact, I actually show you some lines that it's not. I was considering queen takes c3 again, which is really strong. That's what I thought, right? I was like, oh yeah, queen takes c3. Because you have this cool idea. Keep this in mind too, by the way, is that the pawn takes, bishop check. And if king b1, there's actually a nasty checkmate here. Here, 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 and mate. And of course, he has a block with the queen, only move, queen c1. But he, after the check, he goes king d1, and you lose. Because the check, I run away. Even bishop h6 check, you can run up the board, or rook d3. Doesn't work. So if we go back, that doesn't work. And any move, if you said check, great job. Hey job. Hey job, Chad. You lose. You lose. You lose. You lose. Okay, maybe I wouldn't say lose. It's actually okay. Okay, it doesn't lose. In fact, the engine comes up with a crazy line. Is after rook e1, you can't take because you're in check. You're in check. He blocks a check with a check. Apparently this wins. Oh, now we got that mate idea. That's crazy. Once again. Wait, no. After takes, you take here. And then king b2 and rook b8 and we cooking. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. I'm not gonna lie, that was nuts. That's really hard. That's really hard. So apparently I could have played rook f1 check. Oh, that's actually the best too. I'm not even gonna lie, guys. That is the best move. Rook f1 is the best. That's crazy. Like, who in their right mind about to allow this? But after queen takes, yeah, and he's supposed to play rook takes f1, and then bishop a3. I promise you, I would have never played this. If I play this, I'm cheating, bro. Look at another brilliant move. How many? I want somebody to go back and check. Watch this video. Tell me in the comments how many brilliant moves were in this game. Queen e7 check. That's probably another brilliant. Okay, not. Takes and then takes. I'm just up material. So rook f1 would have won. But I chose the more human option, which still wins, which is d4. This is the move that I chose in the game. Imagine all this happened and then d4 happens. Come on, another brilliant move. Oh, this game was made of brilliance. The game with the most brilliant moves ever. That's what the title is. So the game with the most brilliant moves ever. Now, after d4, rook takes d4 is what he chooses. Now, of course, why? d4 blocks the bishop. The problem is this bishop. That's the problem. So I go d4, right, to attack the bishop. Now the rook is hanging and d4 is the thing. And if you do bishop takes d4, I'm just going to take it. And you can't take back. You don't have any checks, by the way. Queen takes c2. This check doesn't work. So we go back. After d4, he takes with the rook. Look at this crazy diagonal here. Crazy diagonal. So I take the rook because now I'm up 2 pieces. You can't take this because there's mate on the back rank. Sorry, on c2. So he moves his rook out of the way. Rook e3. Black to move here, guys. Black to move. In fact, here I actually did think again about queen takes c3. If you said queen takes c3, I mean, you really get some points here. But the problem is that it's a mistake because it becomes a draw. It becomes a draw, guys. After queen takes c3, here's the idea. If rook takes, oh, beautiful. I can go bishop check. At the very least. I can even do rook takes first and then bishop check. Absolutely beautiful chess here. Let's say pawn takes. We go back to that same idea that we looked at with this nasty checkmate. But what happens here is the draw move is rook to e7. This is crazy. This is insane. I mean, this game has so many tactics. After rook e7 check, why does it work? Because if I move my king anywhere, I get mated. Anywhere. Mate here, he takes there, there's a mate there. So I have to take it back. Bishop takes e7. After queen takes, I go king g8, and then he takes my queen, and both of these are hanging. If I could defend both, I'm winning, but I can't. So I have to go something like this. And after queen takes, then rook takes c3, and it's a draw. That is incredible. Incredible. And it's a draw because of 2 rooks. You know, I could take this eventually. 2 rooks versus the queen normally is a draw, depending on what the position looks like. I can even have rook c2 at the right moment too. Somehow, some type of draw. So I don't play queen takes c3. I spend my time. I notice I'm winning. And I play a very simple move, right? Because the problem here is bishop takes with check. So it's not just bishop takes, because if bishop takes, then there's mate. But bishop takes with check is not mate. So what's the problem here? Is the bishop, the check, and the king. So the move is king f7. Cold-blooded move, king f7. So now bishop takes rook is not check at all, which means you touch the bishop, you move the bishop, you get mated. So now I have an extra rook here. And then he plays queen takes h4 with the idea of checking here. Lots of times in chess, from how you can find crazy moves like how I'm finding, and tactical moves is, number 1, we are aggressive players. Number 2, make sure I get the course link in the description. But number 3 here is understanding where do they want to go, and you either stop them from doing it or you defend against the threat. So his threat is queen h7 check. How do we got to check? They have this thing that they teach kids on Chess Kids called CPR, capture the checking piece. Protect meaning block or run away. So can I capture the checking piece? I won't be able to. Can I block? I would have to put something on g7. And can I run away? Technically, but I only have 2 squares to run to. I'm not running into check. That doesn't make sense. I can't run to the e file at all. So these are taken away. All of this. Which means I'm only considering like these 2 moves really, which I can't really run away that much. So now, next thing that we do is I go bishop to e5. That's the move I choose. Because, again, he still can't move the bishop because of mate. Because of mate. So if he checks me, which he doesn't do, but if he checks me, I'm going to go bishop g7, and I block, and I'm going to move my rook out of the way. And, of course, this is mate once again. Also, going back to this, I noticed that after king f7, there's no checks. This check is taken away. This check he can't do. 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 I mean, could, you know, I'll just take, right? But incredible, because after takes, I'm up 2 pieces. I go bishop e5. He goes rook takes e5, and I was like, there's no way you're losing this one. The good thing about being up material, I love to say this, is you need to know when to give it back. When you're up material, you need to know when to give that material back if you need to win the game. In fact, one of the first GMs over the board I was supposed to beat, I was up in exchange. I actually won an exchange, just playing great chess, and like I won the exchange. And then the winning concept for me to win the game was actually giving the exchange back. And I didn't understand that at the time. I was already mastered too. But of course, now I'm a real Jedi. But back then, I just didn't know to give it back, because you hang on to that material because that's what you have that's winning. At least that's what you think. But you have to give it back at certain times. So watch this, right? I'm up 2 pieces right now. I go bishop e5. He takes. He gets some material back. I go queen takes. He checks me. And I'm using the queen now rather than the bishop to go queen g7. And yes, of course, you can take my queen and then the rook. And it just says inaccuracy, but I'm winning, you know. I don't need to calculate what happens on king e6 because it just says, oh, best move king e6 or king e8. Like, I don't need to calculate that at all. I'm just going to put the queen here, give you some material back, and win. Simplify. The easy way. Don't give any counterplay. Queen g7. He takes. I take back. And after bishop takes d4, I'm up a whole rook. If I lose this game, number 1, I'm flipping all the pieces off the board. Number 2, like, I'm just done with tournament chess, right? If you can't win this game, you got a lot more work to do. So, yes, of course, he has 2 extra pawns, but I have a whole rook here. I have a whole rook. And here, he has 1:47. I got 9 minutes, and I was able to win the game. So, as we fast forward, right, I just move the bishop around, a4. I start attacking the pawns. We trade a few times. I make the king very active. And the reason why for this maneuver is to keep an eye on this pawn. So, if he pushes, then he takes. And if he pushes this, then it's hard to get through. While I use my king and other pieces. So I noticed his bishop was actually a little loose here, right? And the reason why I'm going this route is to attack him this way, to attack these pawns. He goes bishop e1. I go rook d8 because I'm noticing his bishop's kind of trapped. Kind of. Well, now I have this sick move. And of course, he's just slightly tilted here, which I understand. So he plays c5, and I actually win the bishop here too. So I go king here. I'm winning the bishop. He can't go here because our rook takes. And if he goes here, then I'll rook check him and pick up the bishop here. So he gives it up. He runs a pawn. I take the bishop because I don't need to. The bishop and the rook are great at stopping all the pawns. They aren't far enough. If they all were on a 6th rank, that'd be different. So he gets 1 on a 6th rank. Start walking my king up in a minute. I go bishop b5 first, hold it down. Rook here, he can't move anything. He walks around me. I use this time to move my king up. I actually used bishop c6 first, which was fine. Like anything could have won. King back to g3, and he promotes to a knight. That's crazy. I was like, when he grabbed the knight and did that, I was like, dang, I didn't even consider that. Like, but I mean, of course, yeah, he just knows it's lost. He made it a knight. More for the memes. Rook takes, he pushes, and I take that too, and then he resigns. The reason for it is this is still a win. Even after king takes, let's say he wants to queen this pawn, I could go king f4. And even if he tries to push, I don't even have to take this. I could actually still go and pick up the pawn. Like this, if he's trying. Like, he's not quick enough, believe it or not. I can still get here in time, pick up this pawn. I don't have to get the rook up. Or you can even go the simpler route. And after king here, pushing, I take the pawn. And then you go here, and then king here, and then here, and then push, and then here, and then push. And then when he queens, after taking, if you don't know how to mate with a king and a queen, then you need to learn. And this would be an easy way to mate with the king and a queen and win the game here. So this was one of my craziest games I've ever played, especially a strong international master. So right now I'm already 1.5 out of 2. First round draw GM, I was winning, right? Remember, go check that game again if you haven't. And then round 2, international master, I win with black and a crazy Sicilian here. Again, this was a psychological move. King g7 was actually incorrect. But his time and like him not finding it and knight f4, such an appealing move, it worked out for us. So, you know, now my record is 2.5 out of 3 games over the board with the classical Sicilian. So you already know what I'm going to be playing a lot more of, because it's still scoring very well for me and I just understand it very well. So I was able to win this game. This was very fun, very strong stuff. Hopefully you enjoyed this game, and hopefully you learned something too as well. All right, guys, we're going to finish up here. We had basically almost an hour. You guys been sitting here with me, 52 minutes basically. So make sure you guys comment. Let me know how you liked this game, any questions you might have and stuff like that. Make sure you check out the free stuff I have for you, which is over here. It's the Aggressive Chess Starter Kit, Comment Attack. I'll send it to you for free. And then also we have the Aggressive Chess Improvement System for a very cheap price for the 50,000 subs that we're at now and climbing. Thanks so much for watching this video, and we'll come more with the next rounds in the later days. So I'll see you guys on the next one.